It's sandbar camping. It's like 100 miles. It's wonderful. If you ever get down there, this is great. I can turn that into a completely severed ACL, torn meniscus, sprained MCL, and surgery, and then do something stupid like this 10 days later when the doctor says, well, I wouldn't go out and paddle this weekend. So I took that really literally and then went out and finished the paddle. So I have a few, a little bit of expertise here. If that's not enough to convince you of good reasons to be Canadian, you want another one? So, key safety gear. This is what I take out every trip. And this is kind of what I want to pass along. We'll talk about the key safety gear and a few other things. But again, you have this info, so this is what's important. I take out a first aid kit absolutely every single time. Waterproof matches and a lighter or ferro rod kit. And the reason I say this is redundant systems, right? I have at least 3 ways to make fire when I'm out. Problem is, these great little Bic lighters that work most of the time, they don't work so well in the cold. So you have to heat them up, you have to warm them up to make fire. So a lot of people will keep them close to them or something, but not necessarily going to work for everybody. New Skin liquid bandage. This stuff is awesome. I love this for superficial wounds. You can see this is on the Yukon River. My hands are split and coming apart, and it's like you just painted over this and it was great, right? So 2, if you're looking at this and say, John, you're like 10-ply soft, I just want you to think of this. When you can't open your beer, this is a problem. This is an important problem you need to fix, right?
Big hazards right away when you're hot camping or hot tenting, of course, the stove, right? The stove is a huge one. Also water travel. So when you are out there, before you even go, have that conversation with the people that you're going to go with. What is our bottom line? Okay, what are our non-negotiables? Maybe your comfort level is not traveling on frozen lakes. So no, you're not going to do that. You're just going to go somewhere where you can hike in on a trail. Okay, you're not going to go on the water. Great. Maybe your comfort level is that we're just going to stay in one spot and set up camp and that's it. Perfect. Okay, have those conversations. If, when are you going to pull the chute? Are you okay in cold, dry temperatures? What's too cold? Are you like minus 15? Are you minus 30? At what point will you guys look at each other and be like, yep, we're done, we're out? So I mentioned that we hot tent, so we use a wood stove. At home, we burn with wood. We have a fireplace as well as a wood stove. So our kids know right from the get-go, that's hot. This is what you stay away from. So they learn that. We set up the tent at home. We get their sleeping bags out. So Dylan had a chance to crawl around in it, practice blowing up his thermarest. We start doing those things at home with them and scaffold that experience. So we would start doing winter walks. We live on the lake. We're very fortunate. So we start getting him used to what it looks like when the ice starts coming in. What are the sounds? What's happening out there? At what point can you put weight on the ice? Where can we go? Start going on little hikes. Bribery, awesome. We just, candy or those treats that, he thinks Gorp is this amazing treat because there's M&Ms and stuff, and it's yeah, we're gonna go for a walk, and then we're gonna take a break, and you're gonna have some Gorp and mango, dried mango, and he's like, yes, this is the best. So start getting those positive associations right away, right? So I'm not below bribery. It took me a while to get there, but then I was like, I also need bribery when I'm out there. I'm like, did you pack the wine? How much chocolate do we have? Okay, I'm game, we're good, right? So use that.
Now, the 500 rule. How long can you keep your shutter open before you see that star trailing? Take the number 500 and divide it by the focal length of the lens that you're using. I use it at the 10 millimeter, so 500 divided by 10, that's nice, easy math. So that gives me, the 10 and the 50 are reversed, sorry about that. That gives me a 50-second exposure then that I can get away with before you see star trailing in those shots. So there's the constellation of Cassiopeia right there through the trees. Orion, using that 500 rule. Over on the side, there's Taurus. But with the tracker, all of a sudden you get longer exposures and you start getting that detail. Or you can get really special things like the total lunar eclipse. The Milky Way. Once you start getting into your zoom lenses, that's where the tracker really comes into play. Then that's a 1 minute exposure.
And this is at the Chickanishing boat launch. I don't know if you've been to Killarney before, but the boat launch is quite cool. It used to have a little waterfall, but then the water raised, the waterfall went away. During winter, you can see lots of different kinds of ice. And here we are going up to the crack. Through some of my process. Process is actually more important to me than my product. It's where I live and breathe and are able to be. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. If I don't do it, there's just something missing. I didn't do something today. And the kids are a part of that. They're growing up with art. So I'm all about the underpainting that I learned from Tom Thompson, my mentors. A picture that I was really inspired by to do the painting. And now it lives in a private collection in Kitchener. And also I've been playing around with the light. So that's actually just a wash. So at the very end of my painting, so you put a lot of water with some acrylic paint, and it's very transparent. You have like 5 minutes to wipe it off before you've wrecked your painting, and you play with the rays of light.
We love this area down here, and we love the area up here, and then there's this beautiful blue line of the Sturgeon River that looks like it would just make such a perfect connection. So we always dreamed of doing a full south to north, starting right here on Matagamacy and continuing up past Ishpatina Ridge and all the way to the town of Goganda up here. We don't plan our campsites in advance on trips like this. Instead, we'll usually just kind of take a look, assess how the group's been progressing, and then look ahead. And we're usually looking for swampy areas alongside our route. So we can usually tuck off of the main travel ways and find usually really nice sheltered areas that are loaded up with standing dead cedar. This is a section on a side hill that when we have a big group, then it becomes more worth our time to spend some time kind of grooming the trail. So we'd send a few people road building out ahead. They'd go with the axes and they'd go with the shovels, and they could scrape snow from the high side and make a really nice path. With 1 or 2 people, you might decide it's better to just kind of grunt your way through it. But with a big group, it really pays dividends to spend a little bit of time grooming the trail and make it easy for everyone to get through. This technique here is something we call the purple elephant. So we get everyone on portages to just grab not every portage, but if it's a nice straight one and seems to be kind of rolling hills, then if you grab the tail of the toboggan in front of you and everyone creates one big long chain, it actually smooths out all those ups and downs. So while you're fighting your way up a hill, the toboggan in front of you might be helping pull you up and over it. And it's amazing how well it works in the right conditions.
That's the Cumberland Peninsula. And basically my route would follow the shore of Baffin Island, starting in a small Inuit hamlet called Kikatarjuak. And it would go 80 kilometers along the shore, and then about 80 kilometers through Akshayuk Pass, and then another 30 kilometers to Pangnirtung, where it would finish. A lot of people, when you see them doing these Antarctic expeditions or Arctic treks, they'll bring sort of like mountaineering style tents, the lighter weight ones. Well, you know, most dog sledders and the people of the north, they almost always travel with canvas tents, and they'll use a double burner Coleman stove in them for heat. And so some people that are kind of Arctic trekkers are like, why the heck are you bringing a canvas tent? And I said, well, because I have a dog, I can kind of travel in between those two styles of winter travel. And because of that, I can have a tent that I can heat with the stove. I can bring extra naphtha gas. I can dry my clothes out. And, you know, I'm freaking up there alone. You know what I mean? And having that place that I can get a warm is a huge survival advantage when I'm out there for sure. It's actually, honestly, almost too hot. And I started thinking, you know, wow, if it stays like this, it's almost going to be like too easy. Always a bad thing when that kind of thought enters my mind, you know, never a good thing, because somehow Mother Nature's like, oh yeah, you know, you asked for it. You punk ginger. And so so finally I'm getting to Akshayuk Pass. This is still where I am. This is North Pangnirtung Fjord, and it's starting to, as I'm nearing Akshayuk Pass, it's already getting really, really dramatic, like very, very beautiful, scenery I'm already witnessing. And this time of year, you're really starting to get that kind of, I saw northern lights once, and then by the end of the trip, I was going to bed and it was still light, and waking up there's not much darkness already at this time of year, which is cool. And here we are at the beginning of the pass on a perfect day. They have these emergency shelters, these really squat shelters that they put, I think, every 40 kilometers or so through the pass. And they're supposed to be for emergency only. As you can see, it was an emergency here. But at the same time, some of the park guys are like, listen, just stay in the shelters, bud, when you need to, right? So I showed up and I said, you know what, I'm going to stay in the shelter. Well, I'm pretty happy that I did, because the weather turned incredibly unstable. I was actually able to use my Coleman double burner to heat it a little bit, but I spent 2 days held up in this with just absolutely ripping wind. I started trying to travel on the first day. I got out there and I probably made it about 300 meters, and the snow was actually almost wet, and it was almost turning into slush on my bags. Incredibly hard wind, to the point where, okay, why am I not moving faster right now? Like, I'm walking as hard as I can and you're going like this. You know what I mean? And I just realized, this is crazy. I'm not going to set the tent up in this. I turned back and I held up in the shelter again.